So this is the topic that we are going to cover today. That is COPD. This is a long topic, so it will take some time actually. Okay, so there is a chronic obstructive pulmonary disease COPD. So this is just a first slide, which will just tell about the what are the obstructive lung diseases. Obstructive lung diseases. So as the name indicate, obstruction. So there is some sort of obstruction in the respiratory system, some sort of obstruction. And ultimately, because of this obstruction, there is a problem in exhaling the air. The amount of air that can be exhaled, the amount of air that can a person can remove from the lungs, that is reduced. So this is basically this is the thing which is affected. And if you measure this thing in the laboratory using this pyrometer, so this is the value that comes. That is called as force expiratory volume. So this is the lab value, laboratory value comes when you go for the lung test. So there's a decrease in this value. This is the characteristic thing. So if anything asked, what is decreased in obstructive lung diseases? You will say this is the thing which is reduced. FEV1, the most important parameter. Again, I am telling the most important parameter is the FEV1. There's another parameter actually, which is called as the vital capacity, which is called as forced vital capacity. Okay, so I have written the definition in your in the notes. What is vital capacity? So what is happening is that if you take the ratio of these two, force expiratory volume divided by vital capacity, then this ratio will be reduced, and this ratio is typically less than 0.7. Why this ratio is reduced? Because this volume is reduced, because the upper value is reduced. So ultimately, the ratio is going to reduce and it will be less than 0.7. What are the examples of the obstructive lung diseases that we all know? Asthma is example of obstructive lung disease. Then COPD is an obstructive lung disease. Then there is a cystic fibrosis. I'm not discussing cystic fibrosis at this point. This is a genetic disease. Okay, I will discuss about the cystic fibrosis separately because it is a separate topic actually. Okay. Now there is a second group of diseases. Our aim is not to discuss this restrictive lung diseases, but just definition, not in detail, just definition. So as the name indicates, restriction, something, a restriction on the lungs. What is that restriction? A restriction on the lung expansions. Lungs cannot expand actually. Why they cannot expand? Because they cannot expand fully. Why they cannot expand? Because they are stiff. There is a fibrosis. There is a stiffness. Because of that stiffness, if they cannot expand, ultimately the patient cannot inhale full volume of air. The amount of air that can be inhaled cannot be that much. That is not a value. That will be not the normal value. It will always be the less value, not the full volume that is inhaled. So ultimately, two values are reduced. Both are reduced. That we discussed in the previous slide. FEV1 as well as FVC. Both are reduced. So if both are reduced and if you take the ratio, so what will be the effect on the ratio? If both are reduced, ratio will remain same. Ratio will not change because both are reducing. So ratio is near to normal in restrictive lung diseases, near to normal. So there are many examples. You will not encounter these diseases in daily life actually, but these are happening actually. These are not uncommon, but these are there. Interstitial lung diseases, sarcoidosis, idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. Actually, in all these conditions, there is fibrosis. Fibrous tissue is deposited in the lungs, and ultimately lungs become stiff. And they are differentiated from one another on the basis of the pathology, depending upon the why it is happening, what are the mechanisms. So we are not going to discuss these because there is no specific therapy actually, no specific therapy to treat these ones. So our aim is just on this today's lecture is on COPD. So what is the definition of COPD? There is a persistent, irreversible airflow obstruction. Obviously, there is an obstruction to the airflow. And we can say COPD is of two types. Number one, emphysema, and second, chronic bronchitis. Two type of COPD, emphysema and chronic bronchitis. Now, if anybody asks what is the major feature of COPD, and you have to tell one single most important symptom, then this is the symptom: breathlessness, dyspnea. This is the single most symptom of COPD. Others are associated, but they are present in many other conditions like cough, sputum. These are also present, but this is the most important: breathlessness. And when the breathlessness will happen, when he will do something, actually during walking, during exercise, during these kind of things, depending upon on in which stage he is actually, depending upon when the breathlessness will take place. So what are the factors that may contribute to COPD? What are the factors? Now, the most important factor is this one, cigarette smoking. The most important factor. Even if you have to take one factor, that factor will be the cigarette smoking. This is minor, air pollution, occupational disease. Occupational disease mean you are working in some area, let's say in a cotton mill, or you are working in some mines. Okay, so the things which are there in the environment in that industry, that keeps on coming inside your lungs. Ultimately, you get the lung diseases. So the diseases that happen because of your workplace, they are the occupational diseases. Okay, so this can happen, air pollution can happen, but it can happen not but that nature. And third important factor can be this one, genetic factor, COPD, genetic factor. What is that genetic factor? Deficiency of this protein. What is that protein? Alpha antitrypsin. Deficiency of alpha antitrypsin. This is important thing. Now, there is a emphysema. Now, I will discuss these two. I told there are two kind of COPD. One is emphysema, second is chronic bronchitis. What are these actually? What is emphysema? So now, this is the typical emphysema. So this is the normal lungs. In the lungs, these are alveoli. Okay, you like grapes, like a bunch of grapes, you can say. But now what is happening is that this is, you can see the divisions, the walls, the separating walls, they are dissolved, and it has become an open room actually. Let's say there is a big house, there are different rooms, but what has happened, the wall between the rooms have been destroyed, and ultimately there is a single hall, so rooms have been, so this is how what is happening. So while telling emphysema, I shown a figure. Why I have shown the figure? Reason is because this is how it is characterized. It is characterized anatomically. This is the characteristic feature of emphysema. That means permanent, and this is permanent, man, because the walls have been destroyed. This is not reversible, irreversible, permanent enlargement of air spaces. Why enlargement it is appearing? Because the alveolar walls, they are destroyed. The merging has taken place. And what will happen if it is a single and the merging has been destroyed, the walls have been destroyed? Ultimately, there is a reduction in the total surface area of alveoli. So surface area is reduced. And if surface area is reduced, ultimately there is an impairment in the air exchange. The air exchange is impaired. So this is the major problem in the emphysema. And these are the two important reasons that I told: cigarette smoking and alpha 1 antitrypsin. So alpha anti-1 trypsin is actually important for emphysema. Actually, cigarette smoking is for COPD in general, including emphysema. But if you ask antitrypsin, antitrypsin is particularly specifically to the emphysema. So I will just take one slide for this one. Alpha antitrypsin. As I told, it is a genetic disease. And this is a protein. It controls the, if you see the name, antitrypsin. So that means it acts against trypsin. So this protein controls the proteolytic activity of trypsin. Trypsin is an enzyme that dissolve protein, proteolytic enzyme. So this activity is controlled by this one. So this is a balance actually. But this balance is disturbed. If this antitrypsin is not there, if there's a deficiency, then there is excessive proteolysis because there is no one to control trypsin. If it is no one can control, so there is a excessive proteolysis, uncontrolled activity, destruction of the alveoli walls, and enlargement of air spaces. So this is the important pathophysiology that happens in this alpha antitrypsin deficiency, leading to emphysema. Now, bronchitis, how it is characterized? It is not characterized
So
anatomically.
can you please show the previous slide once again?
This one.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir.
So now, if you talk about bronchitis, it is not characterized anatomically. It is characterized on the basis of clinical symptoms. Clinical symptoms. And what is that one? Now you have to see. This is the major important symptom, productive cough. Bronchitis is characterized by productive cough, and this is persistent. And this cough has to remain for at least 3 consecutive months and for at least 2 consecutive years. So there should be 2 consecutive years, and within those 2 years, there should be 3 consecutive months of persistent productive cough. Then you actually label that disease as the chronic bronchitis. And this is major important factor. Cigarette smoking is major important factor, not antitrypsin. Antitrypsin is for emphysema, not here. How to diagnose COPD? This is the gold standard, spirometry. So this is a laboratory test actually, respiratory test, lung test. You go and there is an instrument that is put in your mouth and you are asked to inhale or exhale. And you get certain values on the computer because nowadays everything is computerized. So you get some readings on this one on the monitor, and depending on those values, you will be characterized whether those values are normal or not. So pulmonary test, most common test in the uh, clinics, and this is the value, and you will be given this value: force expiratory volume, and there should be 80%, less than 80% of the predicted value, even after bronchodilation. Uh, okay, that it means the person will be given the bronchodilator, and after bronchodilation, he will be asked to perform spirometry. And after that, even after that, you will get this value less than 80% of the predicted value. So you can see this belongs to this category of COPD. And then second thing, this ratio is less than 0.7 to spirometry. Now this is the scale that you have to remember the name of the scale. NMRC. This is the scale of COPD. So this scale basically measure dyspnea, breathlessness, how much breathlessness is taking place. So this is the scale, Modified Medical Research Council dyspnea scale. So this is the Medical Research Council who devised some scale. So that scale is called as MMRC. But obviously this is not for the diagnosis. Diagnosis spirometry. Now to characterize this, to know the stage, whether it is progressing and whether the person is giving response. So you want to classify the patient. It is grade 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so you are placing in certain grades. So grade 0, when he is breathless only during the excessive exercise. So obviously you can say it is a minimal stage, or even you can say the person is in almost a normal condition only during the excessive exercise. On the extreme, on the extreme end, grade 4, he is breathless even during the while putting the clothes or while removing the clothes. Even that is so much a bothersome for a person. Person can be breathless even that activity. Grade 4. In between there are certain grades, 1, 2, 3. I have it given in the notes. Okay, so he has to stop. He has to walk slowly. So depending upon those grades. So those grades are given actually. MMRC. Now, the other scales, you can just remember the names. Other scale is called as CAT, CAT. What is that one? COPD assessment test, CAT. What is that, CAT? This is an online questionnaire. Okay, you will ask the COPD patient to fill the form, and what will be the thing, major thing, what is the effect of COPD on your personal life? So he will put some grades. Okay, he will settle that. So this kind of a test, you will get something that is called as CAT, COPD assessment test. Now there's another word that we have to remember in COPD, that is gold. Gold. So there are different words that are coming. CAT, MMRC, gold. Global Initiative for Obstructive Lung Diseases. So actually, this is the organization, or you can say this is the program. Uh, it takes the value of CAT, it takes the value of MMRC, and he classifies the patient. Okay, it has its own criteria A, B, C, D, and he makes recommendations certain kind of things, but ultimately you have to remember to whom this gold is associated. So you have to remember gold is associated with COPD. That is most important to remember the scales. Now can would be some other test also apart from spirometry. You can do this one, pulse oximetry. I think everybody know this thing nowadays, pulse oximetry. Okay, so where you know what, and you can do the pulse oximetry, and you can perform the arterial blood glasses. Means you can take out the blood, okay, and in the blood you will note down what is the concentration of the oxygen, what is the concentration of carbon dioxide. So this is how you can analyze the blood gas. You can analyze the gases in the blood of the arteries. So now these tests are not conducted regularly. They are not conducted regularly. They are conducted only when there is a when you see the condition of the person is very severe actually, when there is a respiratory failure, or you see the saturation level has reduced. It is less than 92%. Saturated oxygen concentration is less than 92, or if the forced expiratory volume is less than 40. So for the diagnosis, it was 80%. If you remember, it was 80. But in the severe condition, it can be less than 40. Or if it is less than 92, then you perform these tests. Otherwise not. This is one test. And for the emphysema, you can perform this test also. You can measure the level of antitrypsin, whether they are okay or not, whether they are present or not. And particularly, you will measure if the age of the patient is less than 65. Otherwise, not routinely used. But if it age is less than 65, 40 is 45, 50s, and patient of COPD, then you can go for this test, emphysema. Or Second thing, if there's a family history of CBD, then you can go for the antitrypsin measurement. So now, how we can control COPD, non-pharmacological? It is simple. You have to avoid the triggers. So obviously, what is the major trigger? Cigarette. So this is the major thing. Cigarette smoking. You have to reduce the air pollution, minimize occupational dust. But obviously, this is the major thing. Okay, anything which is interfering with the lung function. Now, this thing you have to tell that you have to advise to the patient, you have to perform physical activity. You have to do some exercises because this will make your body to adapt. Your lungs will work more efficiently if you do some exercise. And this kind of exercises has been recommended. This is some Chinese exercise, Tai Chi type of exercise. We are not going to detail of these exercises, but some exercises are found to be effective, like this one. And this is another thing actually, pulmonary rehabilitation. What is that one? Let's say we consider this case. Now, let's say this was the case. A person was there in a very severe condition. So when the person is in a very severe condition, so you will admit the patient in the hospital. Okay. Once the person goes into the hospital, you will go for the treatment. Once the person, the condition improves, so obviously he will be discharged. So once that person is discharged from the hospital, okay, you will try to send that person for this treatment, pulmonary rehabilitation. You will go for that one. You advise the patient to go into this exercise, this rehabilitation program. That means what is happening in this program? Basically, they are giving some exercises and behavioral interventions so that lung functioning is improved. So they do some exercises, they perform some normal activities, so your lungs start functioning. And this is important if the person is sent to this program within first month of